Fellas, we did it. 2024 is over. It's 2025. New year, new me. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. We did a great job last year. But this is our year. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Chinese zodiac calendar, like year of the rat, year of the horse, all that stuff. This is the year of locking in. We're done with the animals. I don't know why I said we. I'm not Chinese. Sorry. But seriously, with the new year, everyone's talking about New Year's resolutions. And if you haven't seen it already, there's probably a bunch of suggested videos on your feed telling you that you need to lock in this year, or how to lock in for 2025, or basically anything of that sort. And I'm going to be honest, I have a crazy opinion about this. I don't actually think locking in is going to help you. I don't think it's a good goal to set, and I don't think locking in is what you need to do. In fact, I'm going to go further. I'm going to say that locking in is preventing you from reaching your goals. I know that's crazy. Caught, I know, but I really think that locking in isn't the answer. And so I want to talk about that a little bit today, kind of break down where locking in comes from, why it doesn't actually work, and what you should do instead. So if you're interested, feel free to watch. But first off, if you're new to the channel, might as well do an intro. I'm Cam. I also go by Chet Bed online. I make videos about digital minimalism, productivity, kind of just whatever I find interesting and want to talk about. And if you're interested in seeing more content like that, or if you like this video, feel free to like, subscribe. You know the whole deal. I don't have to say it all out. But yeah, let's get into this. First off, the idea that obsession leads to success isn't anything new or groundbreaking. I think we've all heard stories of like the tech worker who is glued to their desk making sure that products will ship on time, or the genius painter locking themselves in their studio to create their masterpiece. These stories have kind of been repeated so often, they're pretty cliche, and they're kind of seen as a blueprint for most work. But the idea being, if you want to succeed, you need to sacrifice everything else. That includes sleep, relationships, any form of work-life balance. Everything needs to come second to your obsession. And this mindset isn't only in old stories anymore. Of course, we live in the digital age, so all these stories show up in our timeline. I'm sure everyone's seen a video about a day in my life, and it's like a dude waking up at 3 a.m., taking a cold shower, doing like a Wim Hof breathing method, working on his startup, journaling, meditating, basically just being super cool and badass all day because they're so driven. And people love these videos. I mean, I love these videos. I'll be honest. I've watched a ton of them, and I can understand why. I think there is something really appealing seeing someone so dedicated to their goal, and it's kind of motivating to watch them work. And I don't really mind that aspect of these videos. Like, if you get motivated by these videos, who am I to judge? And especially if they push someone to try out something new or to try out a new structure, that's fine. But my issue is that there's an underlying message with these videos. And I think my issue with these videos is they set an unrealistic standard for the viewer who's watching, who just wants to get their shit together. I mean, I've watched a ton of these videos, and I don't ever see people cooking, being stuck in traffic, running errands, I don't know, even just like resting or taking a nap or showing any signs of burnout, exhaustion, humanity even. And that's not a diss to them. I can't blame the videos for being constructed that way. I think the algorithm favors content like that, and that's pretty boring. I don't want to watch a video of someone being stuck in traffic, right? Like, I can't blame them for that. But I do think that these day in the life videos, they're definitely less of a day in the life, and they're more of like performance art. They're more like American Psycho, at least the first part. Disclaimer, I haven't even seen American Psycho, I'll be honest, but you know what I'm talking about. And I think it's an issue because most people can't structure their life to just chase one goal. We have other responsibilities we have to do, like the ones I mentioned earlier, getting groceries, commuting to work, having a 9 to 5, paying for bills, I don't know, any other like boring, mundane life stuff. Life gets in the way of our goals sometimes. I can't spend my whole day thinking about coding. I have other aspects of my life that I need to handle. And so when these videos are like perfectly crafted to create this perfect life around chasing one's goal and kind of romanticize it. And I have an issue with that because it tells the viewer at home that they need to do this as well. And again, I don't have a problem with taking inspiration from bits and pieces from these videos. I think overall they set an unrealistic standard. And the whole reason I'm making this video is because I saw another video about you need to lock in. And this creator, which no shade to them, we just have different opinions. This creator said that the key to locking in is obsession. You need to obsess over your goal in every aspect of your life. If you're not dreaming about your goal, if it's not the first thing you think of when you wake up and the last thing you think of before you go to bed, if you're not staying up late hours to perfect your craft, then you're not doing it right and you're not going to succeed. But here's the reality of that. Even if you could center your life around your goal, like this person says, you're still human. You're gonna get tired. You're gonna lose focus. At some point, you're gonna hit a wall where you're just exhausted and you don't want to think about it anymore. And I think that's really sad if there's something you genuinely love and you feel like you need to dedicate all of your time to it, that it just sucks the life away from it. It's like what started as like meaningful work became something that you resent. And it's like a weight you carry instead of something you actually enjoy. And I think this all boils down to we are not machines. We're humans. We have limits, physical, emotional, mental limits. You need sleep. You need connection. You need moments of rest and stillness that aren't dedicated to some overarching goal. And that doesn't make you lazy or uncommitted. It just makes you human. I think a lot of these videos also set an unrealistic standard in that they champion self-discipline to the point that it becomes punishment. And I don't think that's a correct way to live. That's not how humans work. Basically, at the end of the day, it's not about how many hours you spend grinding, or how flawlessly you can stick to a routine. It's about creating something that you can actually sustain, a way of working that respects your limits and leaves room for the rest of your life. Because success isn't just about what you accomplish. It's what you feel while you're doing it. What's the point of achieving your goal if the path to your goal leaves you burnt out, isolated, and just overall miserable because you're punishing yourself? What's the point? Is it worth it? I don't think you need to prove your dedication by running yourself into the ground. You need to show up, do the best you can with what you have, and let yourself step away when it's time. Because being productive isn't about squeezing every drop of energy out of yourself in pursuit of some goal. It's about building a life where your work and your well-being can coexist. And I think this is really sad, especially when I think about college students. I mean, college is one of the most important times of your life. It's cliche, but I learned so much about myself from college, and I think I got more value from the learning I did outside of the classroom than in the classroom. But when students are stuck in this lock-in mentality that they need to shut out the world outside and focus on their only goal, they're missing out on like the entire point of college. Because one day they're going to get their degree in their hand, or maybe their high salary from grinding, and they'll have no memories from college to hold on to. I'm not saying that students shouldn't chase their goals, but I'm saying that they should do it in a way that's realistic with their life. It's okay if you miss a day of studying, or if you can't fulfill your habits for a day. Life gets in the way sometimes, and I think it's totally okay to admit that. And I think another thing that happens is when people try out locking in, it just becomes a nuisance to them almost immediately. For example, there's a quote from Oliver Burkeman from this book, Meditations for Mortals, which I really like. I probably should make a full video on this. I really like this book. You should check it out. Not sponsored. And to quote him, he said, "In my days as a productivity geek, I was always embracing some new system for designing my life. And as I downloaded the relevant app or purchased the required stationery, I'd feel excited, even intoxicated. I was on the verge of great things. Then, within a day or two, my new schedule would seem dismal and lifeless. Another list of chores I had to slog through." Then he goes on to say how he resented himself for setting up this system that he had to abide by. And I think that's really what locking in is. It just becomes another chore, another system, and another expectation for you to meet that you probably won't, because we're human. It ultimately convinces you that, okay, once I finish my goal, then life can start. Then I can start hanging out with people again. But that's not a way to live life. Life doesn't wait. It's literally happening right now, whether you're locked in or you're not. And I think one other thing that really bugs me is the lack of rest in these videos. I feel like there's a lot of talk about side hustles upon 9-to-5s upon whatever. And there's a lot of reasons for that about how society works and capitalism that I am not going to talk about in this video. But these videos really glamorize the idea of not resting and always working and grinding towards your goal. And I think my issue with that is it treats rest like it's wasted time, when it's really the opposite. Rest isn't something you do just because your body forces you to sleep. And it's not something you've earned after you've done enough work. Rest isn't a reward. It's part of the work process. When you rest and give your brain space to process and to recharge, some of your best ideas come about. Like, I'm sure everyone knows the idea of shower thoughts. You're in the shower and then randomly a great idea comes to your head. And if you're a programmer, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the deal where you figure out a bug as you're like walking around somewhere or you're not at your computer. And this is something that Berkman also brings up in his book. He says rest isn't the opposite of productivity. It supports productivity. You can't pour from an empty cup. And you can't work well if you're constantly on the edge of burnout. I don't think rest is optional. I don't think it's wasted time either. It's how you make your work sustainable. And rest from locking in doesn't mean switching to another side hustle or developing another hobby that takes a lot of effort to learn. It's about actual rest and giving your brain some space to breathe, hanging out with people, living life. These are keys to making your work sustainable, and this will get you towards your goal. And I don't think a lot of these videos really talk about that. To kind of wrap up, I know a lot of you are probably thinking, okay, so if you don't want me to lock in, what the hell do you want me to do? And that's fair. I haven't really answered that question yet. All I'm trying to say in this video is that the answer isn't locking your room in for 12 hours a day in order to achieve your goal. It's about finding ways to work that are meaningful, realistic, and ultimately sustainable. One thing that I've read a lot online, and also the book, I keep on mentioning the book, but it's really good, is that we only have like 3 hours of real brain productivity that we can use in a day. And I really like that idea because I think that's a good enough amount of time where you can get a lot of progress done, but it won't run your entire life. That's just my opinion. I know some people prefer more than 3 hours. This is just what I read in a book, so I don't really know. But I think that makes sense to me. But I'd be curious what other people think in the comments. My whole video is about creating sustainable change for yourself. And that's kind of like the ethos of like most of my content. But I think ultimately what you do is up to you. I know that's a really boring answer, but I think just making marginal improvements that serve your goal while also giving you time to rest and be human are ultimately what really matters. And I don't think this is an excuse. I'm sure that someone out there is thinking, Cam, you're probably just lazy because you don't want to work 12 hours a day. And if that makes me lazy, I'm lazy. All right, sue me. But I feel a lot happier this way. And I think the happiness from setting a realistic work-life balance is a lot more than the feeling that I get when I achieve a goal. That's my own personal opinion. If you disagree, that's okay. The whole reason I'm making this video is I just want it to be an alternative to the productivity content that's out there. You don't need to take my word for gospel, but I just want to put something out there that's different from all the content I'm seeing online and a little bit more nuanced. I think a lot of people say, follow these distinct steps and you'll be productive, and that's just not how it works. We're not machines. Everything is different for each person. We all have our own unique brain chemistry. And I think just saying, if you're consistent and show up every day, you will see results is something that I totally agree with, but I don't think it's necessarily realistic. I don't think it's necessarily sustainable. I've talked in other videos about how I made habits and then eventually I got burnt out on them. And I think that's a topic for a whole nother video. Basically, I think most of the content that's out there is a little too simplistic and offers more of like an easy solution that's really hard to put into practice. In summary, if you take one thing from this video, this year for 2025, the year of locking in, maybe let's not lock in. Maybe don't measure your success by how much you've suffered. Maybe measure it by how much you've grown and how much you've lived. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm genuinely curious what people think about this. And if you liked the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. You know the whole deal. But thank you so much. I got a lot of support on some of my most recent videos, and I'm getting a lot of discussion in the comments, and that makes me really happy. That's the whole point I'm doing this channel. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you. See you around.